Hey guys, welcome back to this game project tutorial. So today we're going to be making the timer for this hot grenade game, and we're going to be making the skeleton. So basically how you do this, I want you to go to entities in your editor. So here there's going to be this environment section. What we need to do is we need to create some timers. So we need to create a couple timers called game time, and we need to create a state to keep track of what the game's state is. So we can call it game state, and we'll make it a number and set it to 0 for now. So I'll explain what game state does in a little bit later, but game time is basically the game's timer, and I want you to set it to 0 so that you see that there's no problem with what value we set it initially. And before we move forward, there's something I forgot to mention in the last video, but I want you to go to editor and configuration. We need to actually remove one of the engines that we have currently on the game. So if you go to engine in configuration, you're going to see that underneath engine, there's two engines here. There's a server physics engine and there's a client physics engine. This means that whenever we program something into the game, we need to watch out for both servers and client. But we don't want to worry about that. So what we're going to do is we're going to disable client server, and I mean client physics. So for the client physics engine, go ahead and do none. And for the server engine, you can either do Plank or any of these. So what I want you guys to do is please just write this down somewhere. But at the very end of the whole series for this project, I want you to go ahead and use all of these engines and see what the difference is on your game. That way you know what the difference is in the future. So there you go. Client engine has been disabled. And now what we're going to do is go to the script section. So immediately you're going to be left with the three initial scripts that every blank template gives you. I want you guys to create a folder called game management and just go ahead and put those scripts into that game management folder. So I'll put initialize, I'll put player joins, and I'll put player leaves. There you go. And now I'm going to create another new folder. And this folder we're going to call world events. And then for the future, let's make one more folder called unit events. So unit events are just events that unit types engage in. World events are general events for the world. So now you're going to see that we can hide this folder when we don't need it. So that's really useful. So now here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a world event. What we need for this game to work is we need a timer. So let me just explain how this timer is going to work. We're going to have a 10-second period of waiting for the game to start. And then after that 10 seconds, the game is going to begin. And it's going to be 60 seconds of throwing the bomb around. So the game is going to be mayhem for 60 seconds. And at the end of the 60 seconds, we explode the bomb. But once it's been exploded, it goes back to waiting 10 seconds. So it's 10 seconds, 60 seconds, 10 seconds, 60 seconds. In total, it's a 70-second life cycle. So in order to do that, we need to have a timer. And in order to have a timer, I recommend you guys use this script trigger. It's called every second. So what we do is we just name the script every second, always practicing naming the the script name the same as the name of the trigger. And what you guys want to do here is we want to create the timer. Now we're going to do that in just a second, but first I wanted to point out one thing. We created an environment variable called game state. Now we're going to explain what that does. So go ahead and go to your initialize script and let's create a comment for ourselves later because we might forget what this means. So go ahead and find the comment block, add comment, and then type game state. So this is where you explain what game state does. And so 0 means game is waiting, 10-second timer, and then 1 means game is under play, 60 seconds of play. So now you guys have a reference to what exactly game state does. 0 means that we're still waiting, 1 means the game is under work. So now let's create a every second script. So we need to think about what exactly this timer does. When there are no people in the game, this timer should not be doing anything. When there's only one person in the game, we already know that the outcome is going to be that person wins every game, or they lose every game if they hold the bomb. So that means that we don't really want to acknowledge when there's only a couple people or one person or no people. So what we're going to do is we're going to make an if statement for our very first clause, and we're going to say a number comparison. What we're going to do is if we have one person or less, or then we don't want to do anything. So a way we can do that is find out how many players there are. So if you want to find out how many players there are, you can use some keywords like count. Oh, that doesn't work. You can use number of, and then see how many people there are, number of human players. So number of human players, and you say if the number of human players is greater than 1. Now, I know I just said less than 1, but here's why. If it's greater than 1, then do stuff down here. Otherwise, don't do anything. You see, because then what it does is it allows the most important code to be in the then rather than in the else. It looks more organized that way. So now, in the else, there's a couple things we want to do here. The first thing is, what we want to do is we want to set everything to default. So we want to reset everything. Set variable game time as 0. Not undefined, sorry. There you go, as 0. And we also want to set game state to 0, because we just want to reset everything. Because nobody's in the game, or only one person is. So they're not really waiting on anybody. So those are the ways to reset our timer. Now, what you want to do is you want to take this number of human players right here, and inside of here, we're going to start making our timer. So every second, what do we want to do? We want to decrease our timer by 1 so that it becomes 0. So let's create a decrease by action. Decrease game time. So be very careful here because there's game state and game time. You can rename this to state if that helps you, but game time, and decrease it by 1 every second. So that's basically going to create a timer. But if we press play right now, it's going to start going into negative numbers because our time is always 0 at the start. So what we need to do is we need to check if the time is 0. And this is basically going to be a rotate. This is the part that checks the state and rotates the state. So right here. But one thing you might notice right here is we're checking if it's equal to 0. But if we decrease by 1 and our time was 0, then this is going to cause a bug. So we want to put this beforehand. So it checks 0 before it decreases. Now, inside of the if game time is equal to 0, we're going to do two things. We're going to check the game state, and we're going to update the times and the states. So we're going to check if our game is 0, then if game state is 0 as well, what we're going to do is we're going to reset our timer, set variable game time, and we want to set it to 60 seconds because we said that when the game is waiting, it's going to transfer to the 60-second state. And we need to tell the game that our new state is in game playing. So that's 1. So now we have these two things. Now we're going to copy this entire if statement and paste it right here. So click the else 3 dots and press paste. It's going to paste it underneath it. And you say if game state is equal to 1 this time. So that means the other side of the coin, right? When the game is 0, we reset it to this game state. But when the game state is 1, we reset it to the 10-second state. And it waits there. But don't forget to change the game state back to 0. So now we have a clock, but if we go into the game right now, you're not going to see this clock working because these variables don't display anything. So now that we have displayed this entire thing, there's a couple things that we should do in order to display this entire thing on the game. So the first thing is when there's nobody in the game, we want to hide when there's more than one person, we want to show the overlay text. So I'm about to show you guys how to use overlay text. So overlay text is basically this type of UI element that runs in order to show different types of UI, such as center, top, and scoreboard. I want you guys to check these out on your own, and you'll see what they do. But basically, you want to show it for everybody. So every second, you don't want to show this every second, but what you want to do is you want to just show this. Actually, I'm going to show you guys some good practice. Instead of showing it for everybody every second, because that's kind of redundant, just go to the player joins and just show it for the triggering player. So right here, show overlay text for triggering player that joined the game. So top for triggering player. So just to confirm, top is gonna be a timer that is gonna be some text that we can manipulate to show a timer. So now we're in here, and what we want to do is whenever um, the time changes, we want to update it. So we go to update overlay text for everyone. So right here, update overlay text top to a string. So right here, we can say game time. But you might notice if we put game time here, it's not going to show up the actual time. It's just going to say game time. So what you want to do is a concatenation. Concatenation is combining strings, as we talked about before. And so what you want to do here is just type, we can just type game starts in and then put a space. Don't forget the space right here. Game starts in, and then right here, we just put the time. And so you might notice there's no variable that we were looking for, and that's because the type is string. Change this type to number, and now you're going to see a variable game time and game state. So change it to game time. So game starts in game time. So this is going to update it to that. But you might notice that's not always the timer we want because sometimes it's the bomb exploding. So what we need to do is we need to check these if statements again. If the game state is equal to 0 and if the game state's equal to 1. So let's go ahead and paste that right here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to paste it right there. And we're going to remove these inner things that are resetting the timer. And we're going to instead replace them with updating the top. So if the game state is 0, we want to update the top with game starts and game time. And if the game state is 1, we want to update it with bomb explodes in game time, right? Because that's when the bomb explodes. So right here, don't forget the space. I'm going to add it back, but first let's just erase everything. And then we just write bomb explodes in space. Yeah, while that's typing, what we're going to be doing next is we're going to check out if this timer works. It probably doesn't make any sense to capitalize that in. There we go. So now let's save and apply. And one thing to note, when you make a big change like this by adding this entire timer script that we just added, which looks pretty massive, you might want to try republishing your game just to avoid any errors that might show up. So we're republishing the game right now, and SunAtom and I are going to test it out. We're going to see if we can see a timer visible. So look, I just joined the game, and you can see there's this tiny little splotch at the very top, but it doesn't seem to show anything just yet. So let's see what happens to this splotch when SunAtom joins the game. So yeah, just give him a second because there are a couple of network issues here and there. But while they do that, let's just walk around and see all of the different aspects of the map. Alright, yeah, there's a lot to this map. Okay, I'm not quite seeing SunAtom show up. So what I'll do is instead, we'll just create a modification to our script. Even though we said that we're only going to change the timer when the number of players is greater than 1, just to test the functionality of the timer, we'll set that to greater than 0. So there has to be at least one person. And now you'll see immediately this timer starts to update. Bomb explodes in 60 seconds. So that means the bomb script has gone off, and now the game is waiting for that script. Now let's wait for about 1 minute, and after the minute mark, we're going to see if this bomb has exploded. Alright, we're at the 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and there you go. The timer just changed to game starts. And now we should see if it changes from game starts to bomb explodes, then we have successfully finished the timer. There you have it. So now we have a working timer that will constantly go back and forth between game starting and bomb exploding. And this is how you make it. So now that we have a timer, the next thing we need to do is we need to create a couple scripts for the background. So let's add a new script and let's call it create new bomb. So create new bomb. And let's create one more script and we'll call it explode bomb. And so we're going to run these scripts using the every second script later. But for now, we're just going to keep them blank with no triggers, and we're just going to add them in here. So when the game state is 0, and we change to the game in play, we want to create a new bomb. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the script create new bomb. So this is called a dependent script. Basically, what we're doing is we're running the script using other scripts. So the only way for this script to work is if another script runs it. And then same thing here, instead of creating a new bomb, we need to get rid of the bomb by exploding it. So we just run script explode bomb. So save and apply. And there you have it. So we have these scripts. They don't actually do anything yet, but in the future we can modify them to do things. Ah, there's Sun Atom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the timer back so that every second is only going to work for greater than 1. So yeah, if you guys are testing by yourself, go ahead and change this to greater than 0 or open a user account on an incognito window so you can have 2 users running to see your timer work. All you're doing is just waiting for that timer to work back and forth. If you have any issues with this, do let us know in the Mods Discord or in the comments, and we'll be sure to help you. Alright, we'll see you guys in the next video.